We all desire to be the kind of man that makes up the top 1% of males because they represent the pinnacle of masculinity. If, and I'll say it again, only if, you put everything you're going to hear into practice and maintain patience, what you're about to hear could actually change your life. The top 1% of males represent an entirely different group of men. These influential figures are well known for being drastically different from the typical modern guy, particularly in terms of their habits. It goes without saying that a person in the top 1% will never engage in any type of self-pitying behavior or immediate pleasure. After a long day of debating, can you picture Jordan Peterson coming home to crack his nut? Probably not. Instead of being boring and monotonous like the majority of weak people today believe, a man in the top 1% of society lives a life full of wonder and excitement. You'll discover the precise 5 daily routines of men in the top 1%. As I've already stated, advancing in the social order and leading a king's life among men need perseverance and hard effort. You will undoubtedly fail if you lack even one of these two essential elements. Despite your best efforts, if you lack patience, you will fall short. Similarly, even if you have patience, you won't succeed if you can't work hard and intelligently. As harsh as it may sound, you will need to give up a lot of what you currently find enjoyable and pleasant if you want to take on the challenge of becoming a master of success like these people. In the past, sacrifice distinguished boys from men. It still does today and will do so in the future. Now that that is said, let's examine those 5 behaviors. The first is learning. After passing through the formal education system, the majority of males give up on learning anything. Why? It's easy since the corporate system teaches you to only learn from things that have passed muster with the elites and have their seal of approval. Therefore, you believe that everything else is pointless. Being a perpetual learner is the only surefire way to gain knowledge throughout your life, and it is precisely what the top 1% of earners do. The absolute reality is that self-learning is the best kind of learning. Period. I'll say it again. Self-learning is the best kind of education. Do you believe Nikola Tesla or Einstein received any instruction on how to develop novel electrical designs? Instead, it came down to their capacity for independent learning and problem solving. Instead of relying on the corporations to do it for you, it was up to them to learn on their own and put jigsaw pieces together. Guys, keep in mind that no one is coming to your rescue. You'll need to educate yourself on your own about the things that really count in life. A smart man, on the other hand, learns from the mistakes of others. According to the lovely proverb, only a fool learns from his own mistakes. Start by observing, and this is the reason it is so difficult to advance to these levels of success without the right mentor. The identification of one's shortcomings and self-evaluation are essential steps. One such person can be your father, grandfather, or any other manly role model that comes to mind. Take notes from them, pay attention to what they have to say, and apply what you learn. Accountability is another tool you can utilize to hasten your learning process. A man who is 1% will always be honest with himself and accept responsibility for his errors. If you maintain accountability in your daily life, you'll outperform your rivals and start moving up the ladder. Investing comes in second. This is most likely one of the 5 points covered in this video that is most important. The top 1% of males consistently make investments, whether it be in their businesses or the acquisition of new skills. Men frequently make mistakes like this. They spend money on unnecessary items in an effort to impress individuals who don't give a damn about them. Put your money to work instead. Guys, never forget that it's never too late to start making plans for the future, regardless of your upbringing. You might already be an investor, in which case you are aware of how turbulent the last several years have been. Although the S&P 500 has lost about 20% of its value this year, CEOs and analysts alike believe that things could yet get worse. So investing in things that hold value against inflation might be something to look at. Not financial advice, of course. The top 1% of males show their will to the world, according to number 3. There is always something that draws a man's attention away from his mission, which is why the vast majority of modern men are miserable and hopeless. Their inability to demonstrate their genuine willpower and independence to the public is a result of their addictions, poor mental health, unsatisfying relationships, or occupations, all of which are forms of social imprisonment. However, this is where a top man's journey and an average man's path diverge. A man in the top 1% never permits himself to be a captive of the world or of himself. He will learn on his own, locate mentors, and acquire the resources he needs to escape that jail, as we covered in rule number 1. For these men, freedom is the ultimate prize. Instead of allowing harassment to continue, the top 1% will network, put themselves in a position to protect themselves, or completely shut the bully off from their status if they are the target of bullying. Let's assume that you are dependent on adult websites. Rather of saying, "Oh, it's too difficult. Never will I be able to liberate myself," learn to set yourself free once more. Always keep in mind that a solution exists. In this world, there is nothing that cannot be resolved. One of the worst justifications a man can make is to point to the top 1% of males and claim, "Oh, he's wealthy. He can do it because of this." Consider yourself already imprisoned if all you do is watch others and criticize them instead of learning from them. It's no secret that these incredibly wealthy individuals have freedom because of their businesses, but none of you should be discouraged by this. You must always keep in mind that the main way for a guy to become free is via his work as you go through life. As I've already stated, dig yourself out with the shovels of perseverance, diligence, and cunning work. The fourth thing they do is remind themselves of their moral principles. No matter where he stands in the social order, a guy without values will always be unhappy. Period. Without moral principles, you can be at the top of the world and still battle your inner demons. Was Hitler not a member of the top 1% of people? Certainly, he was. From a material standpoint, he had the houses, automobiles, social standing, wealth, and authority. His morals, however, were not honorable. Because of this, barring a mental health emergency, you would never wish to trade places with him despite all that he has. Even though this is an extreme example, it perfectly illustrates what is meant when you spend a lot of time reminding yourself of the stringent guidelines you have established for yourself in order to restrain the power you hold in your hands. Just consider all the regular folks who experience overnight success before giving it all up and wasting everything within a short period of time. That is entirely attributable to the absence of a sound set of rules that guard against such failures. In fact, right now, search lottery winners that went broke on Google. There is an endless list of individuals there. There are those who have earned over $10 million but lost it all within 10 years. Think of your ideals as the car's steering wheel. Even if you drive the most expensive car, you will crash it into a ditch if you lack values. Contrary to the aforementioned individuals, the top 1%ers have developed their self-discipline to the point where adhering to their norms is the norm. But it takes a lot of time to develop one's own values and adhere to them every day in order to reach and sustain that level of self-control. Grab a pen and some paper to get started. Consider any future weaknesses you might have, and then list the many self-imposed rules you must abide by for the remainder of your life to prevent those weaknesses from overcoming you. This may be as easy as turning off all gadgets 2 hours before bedtime to avoid giving in to the temptation of watching mindless television, or it could be as complicated as never spending the night alone with a female, especially if you know you are not ready to continue the relationship. You won't be able to constantly follow the route you have set for yourself until you do. The fifth and last point is that they take care of their health. It surprises me to see so many unwell people attempting to have fulfilling lives without even realizing how much damage they have done to themselves. In fact, I was considering this the other day. Gluttony is a vice that is seldom brought up in our culture, despite the fact that we all know it is something we should avoid. Religious leaders are notorious for having large stomachs. Because of their indulgence in this sin, it has become so accepted in society that it is impossible to watch a movie without indulging in gluttony. It's a sin that could endanger your health and the health of future generations. The more healthy you are, the longer you can live on this planet and the more time you have to enjoy your success. Keep in mind that your health is your most valuable asset, and for good reason. If you can't even sit up straight on $1 million chair, what good is it? Despite the fact that we are all aware of Mr. Warren, the billionaire, none of us would trade places with him. The top 1% of men are aware of this guideline, and as a result, they take good care of their bodies to maintain their youthful appearance into old age. If you've never worked out before, you'll detest it for the first few weeks or months, but ultimately you'll start to enjoy it. Keep yourself active and keep bad food and damaging toxins out of your body.